Hello, welcome to my cozy workspace. My name is Vasiliev. I hope you know who I am, what I do, and that's the reason you decided to buy this masterclass. But if you didn't buy it, but just found it in the internet or simply snatched it, first of all, it makes me mad. Second, you should at least check my Instagram account, follow me, and see my works. You need this to be able to understand what I will be talking about during this course, as I'll be sharing with you how I create a photo, my thought process at that moment, my preparation to a photo set. Yes, it is a very personalized course. I'll be talking about what I think is important, but I am not some role model in the photography world. I'm just a photographer who has his own subjective opinion, and I hope this opinion will also be valuable for you. As the art of each individual student consists of small elements of the art of their mentors, whom they follow and learn from. So, there will be a lot of blah blah in this video. Actually, this video fully consists of blah blah. I will visualize some of my thoughts. I will present something on my computer screen to help you understand better what I mean. But nevertheless, you can accelerate the process if you check my works beforehand. It will help you feel more comfortable while listening to the masterclass, as at some points I go really into details. So, my masterclass consists of 2 lessons. First lesson, which you are watching now, is devoted to preparation for a photo shoot, and the second one is about processing a raw file in Lightroom Photoshop. For some reason, all the photographers, students who come for a lesson with me think that I have hidden secret at the stage of a photo processing, that I worked out my own secret methodology which lets me process a photo and obtain the results which I have. But at this point, I usually disappoint everyone. Maybe you will be disappointed as well, but the major part of the photography is about preparation for a photo shoot. It is first of all thinking through the idea, getting all the required elements together. I always say that when I am going to photograph my idea, this idea is 80% ready. Everything has been prepared beforehand. When I arrive at the location, I just need to put all the elements together, shoot them with my camera, and then at the processing stage, I correct some minor mistakes which could come up during the shoot. But the point is, I already know what I'll be photographing. I have a thought-out process and am confident that this will be a success. I just need to realize it. This preparation process differentiates my photos, and it will be the subject of our lesson. This lesson is meant to be theoretical, but there will be a lot of practical activities. I will do my best to describe in detail each stage of my preparation, process step by step. Yes, mainly it is sitting in front of a computer, just thinking about an idea, researching something, but anyway, instead of just saying to you, select this element or that one, I will try to show you my process step by step with real examples from several shooting sessions. I will tell how a certain idea was built, the development process, how each element was found, which settings I applied during the shoot, how I worked with the model, how I was working with the light, and how the desired atmosphere was created at the location, as well as other details. I will try to share with you as much as possible what ideas I want to express with my pictures, using certain examples of my shoot. But of course, we should begin with some theoretical study, as it is impossible to do anything in practice without the theory. As a foreword, I would like to tell you a short story of how my career began. The story of how my work in the world of art started and developed. Now you see my print works, but I went through a certain path which led me to this genre and the kind of works I'm fond of at the moment. But around 10 years ago, when I found my first DSLR camera. It was Canon 550D with the 18 to 55 lens. I could never even imagine that it would grow into something big. I just wanted to have a camera to be able to capture moments of my life. Simple as that. In the first several years, I took simple pictures of flowers and butterflies, some city sceneries. All these pictures I prefer not to show to anyone. But that was a standard process of getting used to my new camera and to the art of photography. Then I started to take photos of architecture. I started to search for some interesting locations, buildings in my hometown, and I would take pictures of them. At this time, I got fond of Photoshop processing and decided that my architecture should stand out. That's why I used a lot of filters to represent those images with my own vision. Maybe this vision was a bit perverted, but distinct, and they were a success. As I already realized later, it was mainly due to this very peculiar and individualistic way of processing. At that time, there already existed all the browsers, Google, social networks with thousands of identical pictures of the same places which I photographed, but my distinct and peculiar processing made mine different. I should say this processing attracted a lot of hate as well as was considered to be abnormal, non-standard. Nevertheless, these photos stood out. They were noticed and became rather popular. They are still available in some depositories and from time to time are purchased and published in magazines, ads, cards, and in some congratulations cards, and so on. The stage in my photography lasted not so long, but it helped me realize that I could be good at it, and it motivated me to continue with photography. After making photos of architecture, I started to feel confident and not shy to invite models for photo shoots, because people come and spend their valuable time at these photo shoots. I began to understand that I would be able to deliver some results which would attract positive feedback, that the people would like their photos and our cooperation would be mutually beneficial. And this confidence in my ability to photograph people, to be able to work with models, made me step up to a different level. A new level to my photographic art. When a person is captured in a photo, it makes a big difference compared to just landscape or architecture. A person in a shot adds value and meaning to it. People bring to a photo their own story, and photo becomes personalized. It adds dynamism to a photo. You make your photo dynamic with the help of a character. It enables you to tell your story. A character transmits the author's idea, the information you want to represent with this image. My first portraits were cropped at the head size. I cropped the forehead in some of the photos. The photos transmitted only the appearance of a human. I selected a beautiful model and took close-up photos, and those portraits had aesthetic beauty. But some images didn't present any information at all. Didn't contain the atmosphere of a location. At some point, I had a desire to express my creative ideas more vividly. I wanted to transmit through my image what I wanted to say, and I didn't want the photo to be fully dependent on the model. As time passed, my images started to expand more and more. Now I did half-length portraits. then full-length portraits, then photos with a wider perspective. So I switched to a 24 millimeters lens. I bought a Canon 6D with 64 to 105, and for the last 7 or 8 years I took my photos with this camera. I understood that the capacity of the zoom lens, which enables me to make photos both for 24 and for 105 millimeters, I always select the widest angle. For my creative ideas, I use 24 millimeters. My image became wider and captured more and more space and attributes of the location. The location helped me to express my thought more vividly. Now, I was able to show the atmosphere of the place, tell a story, I could use more accessories, I could play with the light, with the weather conditions, with the space. I also started to involve motion into the shot. For example, directing the model, showing where the person is going, movement, and many other elements. And this was the path I took to arrive at my current style of photographing a model in the environment. There are various titles of this style, but you can call it a staged photo shooting. The point is that my image is a symbiosis of the location, the character, and the atmosphere created. I cannot point out the most important constituent, but all the elements are important. The character is important as well as the location, the clothes for the model, the stage properties, the light, the movement of a model, the atmosphere, and all the rest. As the perspective of my image widened, I understood that I stepped up to a new level in my photographic art, a new level of quality. Because at some point, I realized that the processing and some technical constituents of my photo mean not so much. It is just one little stage in the photographic process, and the whole process consists of so many elements. I understood I can study stage direction and production, I can study clothes design, which also helps my photography. I can study setup of the light, any of this. As a photo shoot consists of a bunch of stages. I think that we should really compare photography with film production. If we look at cinematic scenes, everything looks so good and well thought through. Do you think it can only be done by some genius? The thing is that there's a big team working at the filming location. Sometimes there can be 1,000 people behind the camera, and each of them has his own little function, and that fact that the function is so limited, the person executes the responsibility really well. For example, light setup. There's one person who says where to locate the lamps. Another one physically puts the lamps where he was told. There is a dedicated person who is responsible for actors' clothes, who controls the decorations at the background. Another one controls the objects which are positioned in the scenery. Another one checks the script, the plot, and many other things. And all these people are in addition to the film director, who's the main person in charge of what's going on in front of the camera. So, I want you to understand that you can apply the same approach to your photo shoot as applied to a high-budget movie. Of course, you don't have 100 assistants at your location, there's only you. But you can break down your tasks into pieces and complete them step by step. You start with the light allocation, then clothes for your models, then you think what they will be doing. Then you turn into the director, and then you become the camera operator. So you make a chain of tasks which are normally done by a team of people at the filming location. Our next topic will be about those required stages of preparation for a photo shoot and what actions you need to take for it. I always get a bunch of questions about my gear. All the beginners are so eager to get to know which camera and lens I use. So, I have an old model. It is a Canon 6D. Look, has this information brought you up to a next level? Has it improved the quality of your image? I really doubt it. No matter what camera I use, I will still shoot what is in front of me, just with a different camera. Regardless of the equipment, I'm targeted to get the result, which is here, which is in my mind. So once again, regardless of my camera gear, I am making a photo of something predetermined, not what is just in the dynamic range of my camera. But as this question is so popular, then let's go through it. I use the Canon 6D Mark I, and I have been working with this camera for 8 years already. So it is a very old model, but designed for professional photography. It is a full-frame camera for beginners. My current lens is Sigma 24mm f1.4 ART. You can see the image of the lens on my desktop. By the way, this video is being recorded with this camera and this very lens. Yes, this lens is not designed for the video, but I think this quality will be enough, as the point of the masterclass is not about my face, but rather I hope in the information I'm sharing with you. Let's think when you really need expensive equipment. Such equipment is required for events, sports, or wedding photography. Expensive gear enables you to make high-quality photos in a fast-changing environment, under unfavorable conditions. So, if you are working in variable conditions, a good camera will enable you to deliver good shots because such cameras have high ISOs. It has big-sized sensor and high resolution, so you will be able to crop the image later. You also can make a long sequence of photos catching the right moment you wanted to capture and many other advantageous functions. But if we're talking about stage photography, the type of photography we are discussing now, and the type of photography that I'm doing, I can say that the gear plays a minor role here. So, if you're not satisfied with the quality of your images, if you feel there's not enough light, then add it. Physically add more real light at the location. If your camera doesn't have that much dynamic range, just add the light. So if you see the quality is low, then you need to change the photo shoot conditions. You need to make sure that the conditions are proper so that you can make a high-quality image with the help of the simplest camera. Just imagine, the digital equipment has been evolving for decades. It is being developed and upgraded for 50 years already, and each year new models arrive and every new model is better than the previous one. The cameras which were top-notch for the photographers 10, 20, 50 years ago, the cameras they wanted to buy and work with are a simple piece of kit now. Anyone has such a camera in the mobile phone. But somehow 50 years ago, those people made photographic masterpieces. They made their photos using the equipment available. Now we are lucky to have such gorgeous equipment and to access it, but nevertheless, if we are ham-handed, we always blame it on a bad or cheap technology. That is why, when a beginner asks me what camera to select or which lens, I have some advice. I always answer the same. If you're a beginner photographer and you want to buy a DSLR camera to make photos, then get the cheapest camera. Maybe later you will not like it, you'll get disappointed in photography, you will feel it is not your cup of tea. At least you will not regret that you spent so much money for a camera. The cheapest camera will be more than enough to meet your demands, your potential needs. Whatever you take pictures of, and whatever quality you get, most probably it is not about the camera. The issue can be in your knowledge or improper operation of the camera. As for lenses, I always advise to get a zoom lens, which is a lens with a variable focal length. Even when some photographer coaches advise you to buy some expensive lens, which he works with, this will always be a subjective recommendation. The choice of focal length is very individual. For example, I like wide-angle images, which cover a lot of space, where you can feel the atmosphere of the location, but the model in the middle looks very small and it is difficult to make close-ups. A lot of photographers prefer the 35mm lens as it is a classical focal length. It is a rather universal lens, and some prefer the 50mm as they make portraits. Others use 80mm because they photograph nature, where there is a lot of open space, and they like the background to be really blurred. So the use of any focal length can be valid. Your first lens should be a zoom lens, and as time passes you will understand that focal length you prefer, and then you can decide which more expensive lens you should buy. After some years you will already have the experience and will understand what exactly your camera lacks, what upgrades you need, and which new lens you will buy to meet your requirements, your taste, and your style of photography. The best lens for me, which is very subjective, is 24mm, as I like a very wide angle image. But my choice of a lens should mean nothing to you. Let's discuss the lighting equipment which I usually use at my photo shoots. There's not so much to say. I do have a flash strobe, but I almost never use it for staged photography. I can't even remember when I used for my staged photography such a flash. I don't really like flash lighting. Maybe I'm not very skilled in working with flash lighting. Most likely that's the reason. I'm more comfortable to work with the permanent light. When you look at the available permanent lighting, you don't have to buy expensive lamps, video lights, or LED lights. You can always start photographing with normal, domestic lighting. For several years, I've been using this simple portable light, which you can find in any hardware shop. It has a long cable with a plug and a normal light fitting on the other end. You can choose any domestic lamp with higher or lower capacity, of warmer or colder light temperature. This is the cheapest and most universal solution. You can put it anywhere. You can easily hang it and work with it. I agree. Maybe it will not provide such a high level of color reproduction as professional gear, but you are only starting your way, and it will be more than enough to learn how to work with lighting. If we look at my photos, we will see this lamp in many of them, even in the image itself, and nobody really pays attention to it. Look at this photo. Here's this lamp. We can see it hanging and illuminating the model. There are several sources of light here, which are also normal domestic lamps, which were available at the location. And that's how I arranged the lighting setup for this photo shoot. Let's see further. I have so many examples where this lamp is present. In this photo, we have natural light coming from the window. The ceiling lamp is off, but there is my portable lamp on the table in front of the model illuminating his face. This light creates a natural vignette around itself. It illuminates only this area around itself in this circle, providing emphasis to the objects which are meant to be emphasized, and that this is the purpose in this image. Here is a close-up. The lamp is right in front of him. It illuminates the face of the model and ensures the required additional light. All the rest is just a background light. Without this little lamp, the face would look very dark and the image composition would not work. Another example. There is this lamp hanging right in the middle of the photo, and it doesn't bother anyone. It doesn't distract attention. Here, it is one of the tools of the worker. In the next image, my character holds the lamp in his hand. This lamp is part of the plot here. He's using it as a torchlight to have a better look at the spare parts. The lamp plays a multiple role here. It is a source of light and at the same time part of the composition and the plot. Another image. I use the same lamp here as well. It is hanging from the top, and maybe you can even see its cable. It is hanging in front of the model right behind the oil lamp. So the standard lamp hanging behind the oil lamp. And that's the layout I created for this photo. I was so lazy to process this shot that I didn't even bother to delete the cable from the image, but nobody ever noticed that there is some cable hanging because there are so many elements present in the image, and all these elements add value to the photo. That was the idea. This lamp is my big helping hand. I think that it will be more useful for anyone. It is cheap and it works. Recently I bought this light panel. Why did I select this panel? Again, it is permanent light, which I prefer. But of course, this light panel gives you more opportunities. This is video light. It has a better color reproduction. It has various functions such as warmth and brightness adjustment. It also has a battery which makes it portable, and you are free to install it anywhere and get the required light regardless of the availability of a power socket. It gives you very good results as well, and just at my previous photo shoot, I used this panel. It is not expensive. We can order it cheaply from China. I do not recommend you this very model. I'm just sharing with you another potential source of light. There are many panels of this kind, different brands or manufacturers. You can select the one you like in terms of price, size, and other parameters. You can see the examples of the photos taken with the use of this panel. Here, there is a very faint and sunless light coming from the window. It is cold. You can see it on the face. The left part of this picture was already illuminated by this panel. It was installed on a stand and the light was directed opposite to the natural light. Another example from the photo shoot. Coming back to the flashlight and why I prefer the permanent light. In contrast to the flashlight, you see immediately with your own eyes how the permanent light works, what and how it illuminates. You understand the atmosphere it creates. Moreover, the model also sees this light. The model is able to interact with this light. She understands which area is illuminated and which is not. But the flash comes in an instant, and we see the light only later. when we look through the pictures. The model doesn't understand completely where the light is coming from and where it is directed and what the image will look like. And that is why I prefer the permanent light. But once again, it is just my opinion. I don't want to push you towards it, it is just the way I do it. Preparation for a photo shoot. I do not get tired to repeat that preparation for any photo shoot is very important. It is more important than processing your gear or settings of your camera. It is preparation for your photo shoot which makes the difference. It is developing an idea and searching for all the required elements for the photo shoot. This is what creates your image. The prepared photo shoot will always be better than an unprepared, spontaneous one. As I always say, when I go out to take my photos, they are 70 to 80% ready. I only need to arrive at the location, assemble all the prepared elements together, make photos, and correct some of the minor mistakes or deficiencies, and adjust the light and a little at the stage of post-production. But the idea is ready before I come to the location. I know that the pictures will achieve success before I start the photo shoot. So let's review what are the stages of preparation for a photo shoot. What do we need to make our photo project creative and interesting? I made a presentation for you and tried to show the thought process of a beginner photographer when he's preparing for a photo shoot, of a commercial photographer and photographic artist who is doing it professionally. Well, let's see the way newcomers prepare for a photo shoot. First, they invite some model. It can be their acquaintance, or they found a model in the social networks. They invite the model to go out for a photo shoot and instruct her to take her best, favorite clothes, or the photographer selects the clothes himself. They go to a beautiful location where everyone photographs. It could be in nature, some popular city studio, as they previously saw beautiful pictures of other photographers at these locations. They might even take some props and try to experiment with them. Maybe something comes out of it all. When you start this, it is a normal practice. Actually, commercial photographers take a very similar approach, and there is a reason for it. The customer plays the central role in a commercial photo shoot. In such circumstances, from the very beginning, the photographer is limited with some conditions by a technical task. In most cases, the person who orders the photo shoot, normally there is a model driving the photo shoot, and all the rest of the elements build up around the model. So the clothes are selected for the model, and as well as accessories, we also search for a location appropriate for that model. Most often it will be a studio. It is not very convenient to travel somewhere to the countryside, climb a chimney, or walk around basements with your customer. So, if it is a commercial photo shoot, most commonly you will bring your customer to a typical photo studio. What is the thought process of a photographic artist? And what are the ways to develop the art scheme? Photographer always has an idea in the center of his preparation for a photo shoot. So, an idea comes to your mind, it is really fresh, and you don't know exactly what you are doing to photograph. in which location, or how the photos will look alike. We just have an idea and we want to realize it. Maybe we saw something interesting or it came to our mind, and now we have to find a way to express this creative idea. With respect to this idea, we start to search for an appropriate model. Then we search for suitable clothes, suitable not only for the idea but for the model as well. We search for props which are required to realize this idea. We search for a suitable location. We think through the color scheme to be applied. It will influence the clothes of the model and which colors should be present at the location. The colors we need are the colors which determine in some way our image. We think about the light required to fulfill our idea. Will it be daylight, or do we need some mild, dull light? Or do we need the sunset, or will we photograph at night, and will we need any additional sources of light? We also should think about weather conditions. Should it be a foggy day, a rainy one, or maybe a thunderstorm? We need to think through all the conditions which may affect our idea, and finally, our photo. This should be the thought process of a photographic artist preparing for a photo shoot, but this scheme has a very serious disadvantage. It may take a really long time to put all this together. From the moment an idea comes to your mind, it may be a week, a month, a year. Yes, some photo projects take years. I put them on hold and they're waiting for all the elements to come together. But it doesn't mean that you will have only one complete photo shoot per year. It means that somehow we need to optimize this scheme to set up a production to build a little factory for realization of our creative ideas. Now let's see how it can be arranged by an experienced photographer. An experienced photographer has a catalog of models. The selection of models available in your city, you can find them in social networks, in the internet, or maybe you can see them in works of other photographers and so on. You can even Google a picture of the model you like and find her. As now, there is a face recognition function in Google. Most probably you will easily find her contact details, just a link to her account. That's how you can find a model you liked just from a random picture on the internet. So, pay attention. If you like some model, save the picture, create your own catalog of your favorite models and the models which may match your ideas in the future. You should also create a clothes catalog. These are not the clothes you store in your wardrobe. You can just save links to some shops, bazaars, secondhand shops, maybe flea markets where you can find retro clothes, or maybe the clothes which are stacked in your grandma's chest or heaped in a big pile in your country house. Just sort out this pile, take pictures of clothes, which you can potentially use for your future photo projects. That's how you can create a little catalog of clothes. Same approach for your props catalog. These are the accessory items, which you can use in addition to the clothes. It can be your personal or friends' belongings. You can also search at various bazaars or flea markets as well as online markets for secondhand stuff. You also need your own catalog of locations, the places you go. Have you already photographed there, or have you just seen and liked some locations in the works of other photographers? You can find ideas for locations at real estate websites, pictures of country houses for sale, some beautiful apartments from Airbnb or even hotel rooms. Of course, you should have your catalog of the photo studios in your city. You can include here workshops, which you found somewhere in Instagram. It can be art spaces or small boutiques, coffee shops, libraries. You are not limited here. Anything. The more interesting the location, the better your photo shoot. And the most important bit we are lacking here is a catalog of your ideas. Let's say a fresh idea comes into your mind. It is tiny and you don't yet see how to realize it. You don't imagine it clearly. But you feel this idea can be interesting. You can create a catalog of draft ideas and save such ideas, which comes to your mind even if they're not formed yet. And what happens next when you already have these catalogs? All these elements start to get connected with one another. You look at them and see that for this idea I can involve this model, we can go to this location, and these props go with this composition. Then we work out the color and the light, and we understand that this idea is completely ready, and we just need to go to photograph the ready idea. But in parallel to this idea, we have many other embryonic ideas, which are in the process of development. They're just still lacking some elements. So every time you find a new element, you will see immediately that it will fit into this idea or that idea. Gradually, your ideas start growing into a result. I hope you understand what I mean. You create a big conveyor of assembling ideas. So you choose the most complete idea and photograph it. This is the way which enables you to constantly deliver new but high-quality photo shoots. But let's switch a bit from the theory to practice. I will show you my own catalog, how it looks since I was talking so much about it. My catalog is set up in Google Keep service. It is free of charge if you have an account in Google or Android. Then you automatically have this free service. You can find it in the same list as Gmail, Google Docs, or other Google services. You log in and you see such a dashboard or desktop where all your notes are stored and visualized like this. A note can be a picture or a link. Why is this so convenient for me? First of all, I have all my ideas stored at one source, and it is very convenient for me that they are all in front of my eyes. There are some of the models I found on the internet, some locations and draft ideas. These are the works of other photographers, but they awaken my own ideas. For example, I see such a picture and think, well, it is raining in this room. This can be interesting. Then I look at such a photo and think, well, a girl in an aquarium, maybe it will be raining at our location and we will have our model in an aquarium. And for example, it will be photographed in such light. We will select this model for this role. That's how my puzzle starts to come together, just with the help of my notes, which I saved from different sources. Well, there are lots of similar services, paid or free of charge. Maybe you will find another service more convenient for you. It doesn't matter. You can store your links in a notebook. But I think this visualization stimulates your brain to work and find solutions and put your ideas together faster. To summarize it all, let's come back to this picture as it reflects fully all the stages of preparation. Now we just consolidate what we've learned. I hope no questions about how you search for models and locations. Nowadays, you can find almost anyone and anything in the internet. And social networks are websites where you can look for interesting locations. As for props and clothes, you search at bazaars and flea markets, secondhand shops, Avito, maybe some Chinese shops. Just need to take into account that delivery can take really long from such shops. So better from time to time take a deep look and find something interesting, and if not expensive, just order it and store it till you need it. Another point to make regarding clothes, very often models don't have their own clothes consistent with the photo shoot idea. So very often I have to look for my clothes, and not just among their clothes, but to search for something among my personal stuff. So quite often it is very neutral, oversized clothes, neutral in color and style. Why do I prefer white, gray, or black shades? They match any idea, they match any color scheme. They are very universal. As well as oversized clothes, some shapeless men's shirts, trousers, or just abstract clothes, panels, which you can fold around the model in all sorts of ways. I have a really modest wardrobe for my photo shoots, but all these clothes I can use a number of times. Such clothes look so simple that nobody pays attention to them, and they match any idea. Plus, oversized clothes can be worn and mixed in different ways. One and the same shirt will seem different if you wear it with a belt, inside or on top of something. You can pull it down the shoulder and it will add its own style to and look completely different, and nobody will ever remember that I already used this shirt from any other project. That's why even such a small stock of clothes, neutral clothes, always helps to find a desired solution. Now we will talk about the two stages remaining, which are the color scheme of your image, which you also should think through beforehand, and light, which includes natural light as well as the arrangement of additional sources of light and lighting equipment. We will review in detail all these steps one by one using at the example of my own photo shoots. Color schemes. It is easy. What do we need to know about color schemes? We should always remember that photography is a visual art, and your viewers also have their psychological and physiological peculiarities. Ancient artists, modern photographers, psychologists, designers, and many other specialists who are related with visual content have established a consistent pattern of color perception. As a rule, it is different for our brain to perceive a complex mixture of colors. If lots of different colors strike our eyes with various shades and wavelength, our brain becomes confused and feels neither good nor comfortable to observe such an image. It is very difficult to concentrate one's attention on a photo which has a lot of different colors in it. A viewer always feels more comfortable when, first of all, there are not so many different colors in a photo, and second, when these colors are nicely matched. In the science of our visual art, some smart people created certain color schemes, so-called harmonious patterns of matching colors. The color compositions which are favorable for our eyes and are accordingly easy to perceive for our brain. So, should try to always refer to these color schemes when you prepare for your photo shoot as well as during post-processing. Let's review the most popular color schemes. Here is a monochrome scheme, which is maybe the most popular in the entire history of color schemes. If it is monochrome, then there is only one color used in your image. Of course, there are different shades, different saturations, varying brightness, but it is one and the same color. You can see the use of the color turquoise in this example. But we all know and admire our black and white monochrome scheme. I think that we sometimes make a shot in bad colors. Then we try to apply all sorts of filters to it in Photoshop. But nothing is good with the lighter color, so we simply convert it into black and white monochrome, and in an instant our eyes feel better looking at the photo. The picture looks good and nice and you keep it in black and white, but this is a lazy option. You didn't make it in the right color and you take the easy way out. But in reality, the black and white scheme is another monochrome scheme, just that all the shades of gray are used in it. But you can use any other color, blue, red, yellow, any. We photograph something blue with a background of the sky, and we get all shades of blue. We photograph a green object in the grass, and we get a green color scheme, and at the same time, such an image will look as clear and harmonious as in black and white. The analog scheme is the next one to review. Here we add to our main color several more, but the ones which are located nearest in the color circle, we do not add contrasting or ill-matching colors. We add the nearest colors from the color circle, our color spectrum. Here's an example. We take photos of a girl in the forest. It can be autumn. The leaves can be green, yellow, or orange. This is quite normal. We add a model in a green dress into our image, and all these colors will look harmonious. We can see in this image red leaves, a green dress, green grass, the model is blonde, and the hair has a yellowish color. We see many colors in this picture. It is a multicolored picture, but all the colors match and look harmonious because they are from the nearest color spectrum. Don't add to this image any contrasting colors like bright blue, purple, or red. The next scheme is very popular. It is the complementary scheme. In this scheme, we use very few colors, but they are opposite each other in the color circle. They are very contrasting. It can be green and purple, blue and orange, red and turquoise. As in our photo example, such popular color compositions have their own names, such as dill shift. Dill shift is a very popular color synchronization in movie making. Here we can see a shot from the Mad Max movie. A warm orange character stands out in the background of the cold blue sky in this image. This scheme is used very often in the cinema world, especially in action movies or fantasy where the action is very fast and continuous. In this composition, colors make an object stand out in the background, attracting the attention of the audience. With the help of the color, we highlight to our viewer which object in the image is important and which object they should follow. If the action is very fast, for example, in Transformers, the whole movie is colored in dill shift. In all the scenes, the important object, which is meant to be followed by the audience, is always in contrast to the background. In order to help the viewer to keep an eye on the important object which the director wants to show, this major object is always highlighted against the background, which helps to attract attention of the viewer. It is a very popular scheme and serves its purpose not only in movies, it is frequently used in photography too. All the filtering tools such as split toning and others are based on a complementary scheme and designed to provide a color contrast against the background and emphasize the character. The next schemes and many further ones are the triangle schemes. Various triangle schemes. There are square schemes when colors are used in such order. I hope the color circle principle is already clear. There are many such schemes, but it is not what I am trying to tell you about. It doesn't matter what colors themes exist. It is important not to use many colors in your image. The less colors in the image, the better. Don't play with the saturation too much. Better keep the colors more reserved, not too saturated, more conditional. What do I mean by conditional colors? They are colors almost not visible to the eye, but we look and understand that there should be this color here, but it is almost invisible in the picture. Better to exclude unnecessary colors at the stage of preparation or dim these colors during post-processing. There are many colors in your photo. Let these be similar colors allocated next to each other in the circle. It can be shades of green, orange, blue, or red. Doesn't matter, just don't add unnecessary contrasting colors to the image. And of course, use the complementary scheme when you use contrasting colors for the main subject and for the background to create attention using color contrast. Keep in mind that if you are using the complementary scheme, do not use too many colors. Decrease them to a minimum 2 colors or 3-4 close to each other. In this case, your photo will be harmonious. It will be easy and comfortable to look at, and the attention time to your picture will grow. The viewer will enjoy looking at your photo. He will point out the details. He will try to understand what is the idea of the photo, what is the plot. That's why the color is, of course, very important. Our picture consists of light captured into the film or camera sensor and the color, which we want to reproduce. Color and light are two instruments which help us represent the idea, and all our thoughts we planted into the image. Pure color. Pure color is one of the most important subjects in photography, and of course, one of the most important subjects in my masterclass. Students complain very often about problems with the color of skin, about complexion. They get green or purple shades, gray spots, and many other issues. For some reason, all beginners try to resolve these issues at the stage of post-processing. They think that Photoshop will enable them to correct it all, but in reality, it is worthwhile thinking about it at the stage of preparation. That's why we will discuss the subject in this first part of the masterclass, which is dedicated to preparation. Let's look at this example. It is a photo made by one of my students. He took as a reference my image and tried to replicate it. The photo came out rather good, but he had issues with the skin color and we discussed with him this case. So let's analyze it step by step. We need to look at our brothers. We need to look at the artists to understand how colors work. If we look at this clean color palette, each paint is clean. We can dip the brush into any of them and paint with this pure color. But what happens after time when these colors are mixed? The more we mix them, the more colors we add on the palette, the dirtier and grayer our painting will be. Why does this happen? We can understand this principle with the help of our color circles. On the left, we can see a color circle of a photographer. The main colors here are yellow, blue, and red, and the rest of the colors are their derivatives. RGB color space is on the right, and the familiar red, green, and blue colors, which are in the space of our digital cameras. And what do we see here in common? If we mix the colors of an artist in equal proportion, we get the black color. If we mix all RGB colors, we get the white color. The difference is in the canvas medium. If it is an artist's canvas or it is a printer, which uses CMYC color space, the paper is white, so the white basic color is already present and the other colors are mixed, we get black, an opposite color. A monitor screen is black, but when all the pixels are mixed, we get a white color, the one we lack. But it is not the major difference. What is really important for us? When we mix a lot of different colors, we get absence of color. Black or white are colors as well, but they are not the colors which were initially mixed. We get absence of color, the saturation is decreased. The more colors we mix, the dirtier color we get. Let's try to do this in Photoshop with the digital colors, not with the paint on the palette. For example, we want to correct the skin color of the model. The proper skin color is located somewhere here between orange and red. That's the approximate complexion of our model. Now let's illuminate it with some contrast called blue. That's the cold blue beam illuminating the face of our model. What do we see at first? We see the face gets a blue shadow and it is just skin illuminated with cold light. But if we edit the photo further, we select the dropper tool, click into our new color, and we will see that in reality it is gray. It is no longer warm or cold, it is mixed gray, and if we check its saturation, the saturation of our initial color is 25%. The saturation of the cold color is 22%. Combined together, they have a saturation of 6%. It became gray. It has no color in it. If we want to process this light further, we will not be able to work with either warm or cold color. We have no choice but to add some new colors into it. We cannot do anything with it on its own. That's the main law of color blending. Why do we get grayish colors? Because we mix incompatible colors. Now let's discuss how we resolve this issue. It is always better not to resolve a problem, but to prevent it. Rule number 1. If you photograph using several sources of light, but of different tones and temperature, it is quite possible to do it. You can illuminate the background with the cold light and the model with the warm, creating a complementary color scheme consisting of two opposite colors. But it is important not to direct these sources of light onto the model's face. You can direct this light to the background and illuminate the model with the other source of light. So, the model will be illuminated with the warm color and the background with the cold. And we will see it clearly in our image. That's how the image looks. The model is illuminated with the warm color, and the background has the cold illumination. Is it good? Yes, it is. We can also create a backlight if we reverse this light and direct it to the back of the model. Can we do it? Yes. Why not? We will have cold backlight and we will have the warm light from the front. But at the same time, colors will not be blended on the model. You shouldn't illuminate the model with different shades of light. It is a bad option. Don't illuminate the model this way, like that. It can be a creative idea to illuminate one part of the face with the cold light and the other with the warm. You can do that, but in this case, you should set a big difference in the light temperatures. If it is your idea, it is fine. But if you want to get pure skin color, then don't direct both cold and warm sources of light to the model. Yes, one part of the face will be warm and the other cold, but in the middle the colors will blend and you will get grayish color because these colors are conflicting. They cancel each other out. So, rule number 1, don't mix different sources of light, sources with different temperature, onto the photo target. Second rule, which is obvious and comes from the subject of camera settings. Before the photo shoot, set up correctly the color balance. As I already mentioned, I do it in kelvins. Don't go too fanatical about it. You don't have to measure your location against a white piece of paper, gray card, or some special kit. Nothing special. Just look at your screen in live view mode and visually decide whether you want your image to be a bit warmer or colder. Better it looks natural, as close to reality as possible. What do we need to do next? Using the example of my photo shoot, I will share with you the entire process, how the idea was developed, what my thoughts were, how I worked at different stages, the stages which we already discussed with you, what makes a photo shoot successful. I will show how I take pictures, what settings I use, the way I work with the models. We will talk about all these things in this part, of course. Let's begin with this photo shoot. It turned out to be rather popular, and I received a bunch of questions about it. A lot of students tried to replicate it and ask how it was done and realized. Besides the technique of how to cover the model, I would like to tell you about the idea. How it was born and grew, and why these pictures turned out as they did. Initially, the idea for this photo shoot was very simple and plain, as it often happens. I came across an image in the internet made by another photographer. There was a girl against some background. She was dressed in a dress, and there were candles on her shoulders, but they weren't lit, just stubs of candles. I looked at the picture and it caught my attention, but it wasn't about the picture. I wondered more about why the author stopped at this stage. Why didn't he proceed with the idea? Why didn't he try to light the candles? I think it would make sense, but if we develop this idea further, if the candles are lit, then the wax will warm up, melt, and flow down the shoulders and to the model's body. In this case, there should be no dress. Then the melted wax will make the dress. Initially, the idea easily emerged in my mind just by looking at someone else's photo. But when I looked at it, I realized that I can improve this image. I didn't have a desire to replicate it. I didn't want to make something similar. I just understood that I can make something better out of it. It can be photographed in a different way. It can be developed. I don't think that it is a stolen idea. No. Art is almost like sports. Each year, there comes a new generation of photographers, artists, or people of any other creative field, and they always learn and improve with the help of their predecessors' experience and achievements, bringing into them their new ideas. Just like in sports, every new generation beats the record of the preceding athletes. They just start from the existing results and improve them. That's the way art develops. So let's come back to the photo shoot. How did I proceed with it? Everything was rather simple. I Googled whether it is possible or not. Is it allowed to cover skin with hot wax, or it can get too hot and damage the skin of my model, and as well as many other aspects. Then I research in Wikipedia and I find out that I should use not the usual candle wax but paraffin, as its melting temperature is significantly lower. I study the properties of these materials, I read different articles, and I understand that theoretically it is possible that the temperature is not so high and it will not cause any harm or burn skin. I got to know that there is even a cosmetological procedure when you have your skin covered with warm paraffin, and it makes your skin nice and soft. So theoretically, no danger for any model. What I did next, I went to the store and bought this paraffin. It looks like a brick, I learned how to melt it to the required and proper temperature, not to make it too hot. And of course, first I tried it on my own skin and I had the real physical proof that it is possible to realize the idea. And with this proof, I started to search for a suitable model. That's how I made the candles. I bought usual candles but dipped them into melted paraffin so that they all look identical in color and texture. So the wax which you see on the body of the model is really melted paraffin. Nothing complicated. I poured paraffin into the cups, put the candles in, and then just melted part of the paraffin to the required level. So when I understood that it would be possible to make this idea come true, I started to search for all the elements I needed. First of all, I searched for a model. How was the model selected for this photo shoot? I had several requirements for a model. Paraffin is white, and to make it visible, to show the shape of it and the volume, I needed a model with darker skin or a strong suntan. There was a suitable model in my contact list, in my catalog of models. There were really few candidates which met this requirement, but I selected this model. Her name is Yulia, and I offered her this project. I described everything in detail, provided the proof and the evidence that it will not do her any harm. Maybe it will be a little bit unpleasant. Might feel like a hot shower. I showed to the model that the pictures that I tried, that I know what I'm talking about, and convinced her that I'm confident about it and that I guarantee her safety. But Yulia is a brave girl and she's open for experiments. She was eager to participate in this photo shoot. We have already worked before and knew each other, so she trusted me more than some photographers she doesn't know. So the model was found, and she was selected, as odd as it may sound, by the skin color. Just the aesthetic reason, because for my image I needed dark skin. So now I have the idea, I know what will be going on in front of my camera. I selected the model. What do I need next? I need to find a location. In our case, it is just a background. I would really want to do this photo shoot at some interesting location in some interesting interior, maybe in a Gothic castle or maybe even outdoors in the nature. But I realized that technically this process of paraffin melting requires a lot of work and kit. I will need a stove to make a boiling water bath to melt the paraffin, and it will take time. Then, it will take quite long to cover the model with this paraffin. We will need to cover the floor with some protective film, as we will definitely make some mess with the paraffin dropping around, and it may spoil the floors in a studio. The model will need to take a shower after the photo shoot, so we need a bathroom and many other requirements. So I understood that if we go to some photo studio bringing all this equipment, it will be very time-consuming, tiring, and expensive, as we will need a lot of hours. It will be difficult as well to take outdoors all these stoves and baths. I came to a conclusion that I want to try this new idea, and I will make the photo shoot just at home. If I'm at home, I will need a simple, single colored background. And most probably, it'll be a half-length portrait as I don't have a lot of space at home. Plus, if we have just a background, then that's a point to make full-height photos. Then we would have to do something about the lower part of the body, and I didn't plan to cover her with paraffin fully. That's why I decided to make a background, and there was some requirements to it. I thought that the background should either be in harmony with the model and have warm shades because we already have the warm skin color, we have fire, white paraffin, and a warm background. That's the way we see it in this image. Or my background should be cold to give contrast to the scene. Or it should be in contrast with the model and our color scheme composition, which we talked about. You can see the cold background option in this photo. It is one and the same background and same originals, but just a bit edited during post-processing. The colors were extracted in Lightroom. I just wanted to see the options of both harmonious colors and contrast colors. At this moment, we came very close to the photo shoot itself. I have a tiny idea. I understand what I will be photographing. I know who the model is. I have the background. I know I will make half-length portraits, and I can imagine what the photos will look like. What am I trying to say here? You don't have to try to be a genius photographer and have in your mind the final result of the photo shoot before you actually do it. When I have an idea, it doesn't mean that I already see the final result, that I know what will be the angle, the composition, and the light, but I have a logical understanding what my image will be. So the idea for this photo shoot was very simple. I saw a picture and thought, why don't we light the candles on the model's shoulders so that the wax melts and flows down? And I found out it was possible to do it. I selected such model because I selected this background because I have some requirements to it. I select this angle and this composition again due to the criteria of the photo shoot, and all these criteria define for me what steps I will take. And only through this, we get the final result. So the model was selected because I needed such skin color. The background was selected because I needed this color of the background. The angle is as it is because I took photos in a limited space at home and the plan was to photograph only the upper part of the body. So when I started to take pictures, when I took my camera, I already knew what the image will be and what needs to be done. That's it. I just needed to take my photos. I have a short video of how we poured the paraffin. Let's quickly watch it. Now they are doing the hair. I didn't have any special requirements for it. I just needed hair to be up so that it doesn't catch fire, but not neatly. I wanted it to look a bit untidy. Then we cover the body of the model with melted paraffin. It is important to take your time and not hurry pouring the paraffin down her skin, as it will be rather hot, especially if paraffin reaches some delicate areas like armpits. But if you trickle little by little and blow some air to cool it down, like I do using this reflecting screen, it will not feel so hot for the model. This procedure is quite bearable. Paraffin temperature is around 55 degrees Celsius, so you understand it is the same temperature as water in a hot shower. Now, we can look at the images before and after. Here is before, and here's after. So we have here just a background installed on the wall. The background is a white sheet. I bought it, covered it with instant coffee, and dried it in the oven. And I got such flatbread, a bit burnt. I called it a flatbread. I wanted to create some kind of burnt patches because the fire theme is present in this photo shoot, so our background looks also a bit burnt. The background is just hung on the wall and the model is just sitting on a chair in front of it. We can see a window and the daylight coming from the left. The window is covered with the blackout curtains. There is a space to the left from the model with bright day light shining through. That's it. There's no more lighting equipment involved. The natural light illuminates the model. These flecks of light along the neck and the edges come from the candles. The candles were really lit during the photo shoot, so they create rather good edge light, which was sufficient. But this fire wasn't meant to be part of the lighting setup. The candles were lit to make the scene more vivid and natural. I wanted it to look as natural as possible. And I wanted this light from the candles so that it was obvious that the candles were really alight. The model had to turn her head in different directions, and as she turned, we put out the candle closest to her hair in order to protect and not burn it. During post-processing, I added back the flame in Photoshop. Another angle, but the same original and processed photo. Here I applied color shades. I wanted to try this option too. You can see that candles are lit and the fire is real. Here's another version. Everything stays the same. It is a bit brighter. You can see that one candle is put out and I copied this flame from another candle in Photoshop. That's it. In fact, there's no collaging. There's no strong retouching. The image is just cropped and the background is adjusted a bit where required. I made a rather strong vignette to cover deficiencies in the background and an insignificant color correction in Lightroom. That's about my photo shoot. I hope you will be able not only to repeat it, but develop it further as it has a lot of potential for improvement. Because, as I've mentioned already, I would photograph it in some interior, at some location, creating a more interesting plot, but I haven't done it yet. I understand myself that this photo shoot can be improved, so feel free to pursue it. I don't think that I will come back to this idea again, so it is your task to improve it. Let's see another example of an interesting photo shoot. Here is this photo shoot. It is also rather popular. A lot of people wonder how it was done. For some reason, they ask a lot about post-processing. Even though there is almost no processing done for these photos, and we will again come to this point, I didn't even open Photoshop to process these images, didn't use it. The only thing I did was some color correction in Lightroom. The success of this photo shoot was driven only by preparation. Everything looked in reality just as you see it in these photos. I will prove it with the originals as we proceed. So, How did I come up with an idea of such a photo shoot? I can't remember the exact moment I got this idea. It was developed over a period of time. I saw those American car graveyards quite often, even when I was a child. These huge piles of cars, a giant pressing machine which crushes cars, and the whole atmosphere of post-nuclear explosion and hopelessness, dirt and metal. So these images kept coming back to my mind, and I wanted to realize this idea somehow. So I started to search for such places in my hometown or in the suburbs, and I found out that such car graveyards are not so common in Russia. We have a different arrangement. Old cars are sent to specialized services, which are called wrecking yards. The cars are disassembled there into spare parts, and good parts are sold for secondary use. That's why I started searching at least for a wrecking yard, as I knew I could find partly disassembled cars there. I mean, bodies of cars which are being disassembled in warehouses of the parts for resale. I found out that there are such services and they are mainly located outside the city. I visited a website of such a wrecking yard, understood approximately how this place looks, judging by a few pictures I saw on the web. I sent a message to this random yard I found and I addressed it directly to its managing director. And my message was the following. I said, "Hello, I am a photographic artist. I do staged photography, not commercial. It would be great if I could realize my creative idea at your wrecking yard with your permission. I will not get any money after this photo shoot, but if you like my photos, you will be able to use them at your website. In social networks or any other purposes, you can use them for promotion for your business. I don't sell these pictures, so there will be no claim to the author's rights or any other issues." And this director, just like many other people to whom I turned with similar requests, replied to me and said, "Sure, no issue. I am also a creative thinker, and if you are interested to photograph here, you are welcome to do so. If you don't need anything from our side, you don't need any time of my employees, you're welcome. Come. We have our Instagram account, and it would be nice to post some of your photos." This scheme works with the majority of people whom I turn to. You are surrounded by so many interesting locations. There are cute cafes, art spaces, exhibitions, can be garages, warehouses, abandoned gardens, summer houses for sale, country houses, resorts, and many others. There are so many interesting places, and if you make a kind request, you will not have any barriers to photograph there. You often don't even need money for it. You just need to ask for permission from the owners, tenants, or security guard, whoever can let you in. It is very simple and almost always works. Remember that if you send a proper message describing correctly your request, that you are a photographic artist, that you do it to create art, not to earn money, not for advertisement or commercial purposes, that you don't get money for this photo shoot, and that it is why you are asking to photograph there for free, most people understand it, And most of the companies need some free photos as everyone nowadays has a social network account and needs content which they can post. So never hesitate to ask whether you can take photos at their location. Never hesitate to offer your surface and pictures. You know, there are often issues with photo studios, difficult to find good ones. In my city, there are really few. They all look the same. They are big rooms with large windows and colored walls. There's a bed with curtains, fake flowers. They look so identical and highly artificial. And the images you get will look similar to the images of all commercial photographers in the city. If you want to stand out, then search for interesting locations. Locations which have their own atmosphere, creating over the years naturally. This atmosphere has its reason and history, and usually each object at such places has its own place and contributes to the atmosphere. That is why location is very important. Basically, location stimulates development of an entire idea in my photography. Location is often the grounds for my idea rather than the model. Atmosphere or something else. So, don't be shy to ask. If you go to a commercial studio and rent it for several hours, you will have to pay a lot of money, as usually those studios are quite expensive. 1 hour is not enough for me. If I rent a studio, I rent it for a minimum of 2 hours, and it is a lot of money. For this money, I can arrange the entire photo project. I can invite a model and go somewhere outside the city to an interesting location. Better you pay this money to some security guard, or you photograph at a cafe, and you pay this money to a waiter who agrees to be present at the photo shoot at non-opening hours just to make sure everything is fine during the process. You can buy a present with this money and give it to a person who lets you in to make photos at his country house or some interesting location. So the equal money which you spend to rent a studio, you can spend to achieve better results. You can spend money to get to a location which will be interesting for people. It'll be unique, nobody photographed there before, and it will not be more expensive for you. It is a very important recommendation. Remember it. So, I found the location. The idea was very simple: to take photos at this location. I already said how I found the location, how I needed to find a model and think through her appearance. The model, how did I select her? I think a model and her appearance can be combined into one subject here. So, what were my thoughts? I needed a character who would look interesting in this location. Let's imagine it could be some glamorous girl in an evening dress with the plot that she feels so uncomfortable in such a location. Yeah, I could have played with such a contradictory idea. The girl could walk around and really stand out against the background of the wrecked cars. But I chose a different option. I selected a character matching this environment. I had my own references which helped me choose a model. I collect such references in mood boards. They help me understand better what I want exactly. Sometimes I show them to the model so that we're on the same page. These are the images of a girl mechanic, a tomboy, rather brutal and strong. Interesting character. A model was often compared afterwards to the character Gadget from Chip and Dale. So my image idea was a gadget girl. I found a model I hadn't worked with before, but I had her contact details in my catalog just in case. The girl looked suitable to me. She visually looks as a strong character. Now we needed to select clothes. I normally use some plain and unremarkable clothes for my photo shoots, but nonetheless suitable. They will not be so distinctive, but will match the plot. How did I create the outfit for the model? I bought the cheapest top in a clothes shop and again poured instant coffee on it. Sprinkled some dry coffee powder on it and put it into the oven. Then grated it a little, and that's what I got. Even for an everyday life, this top looked rather cool. Coffee gave this sturdy and rough look with rustic spots. Baked dry coffee powder created the sparkling effect. These sparkles looked like burnt spots, as if the girl was working with some grinder or a welding machine. These holes and torn edges I made with scissors and some with the grater. I found my own old trousers. They are men's trousers, but they are very suitable for this composition. We made cutouts at the knees and that's all. They already looked shabby enough. I was thinking to use these braces, but afterwards changed my mind. I don't remember why, as anyway the outfit looked complete without them. We found an old belt. It actually plays no role here, and these shoes belong to the model. She wears them daily. Again, these are plain gray shoes, looking not new or shiny. Nothing remarkable about them. The outfit looked like this in the real life and didn't require any post-processing. At this point, we just needed to go to the location. Once again, I had an idea and it was developed. With the help of all those elements and arrangements arising from the idea itself. A photo shoot is a process of resolving step by step some issues and fulfilling requirements. I didn't know exactly what my image will look like, but I understood that it'll be something interesting when I fit all the necessary elements together. As a result, the photos came as they are. But when we arrived to take photos, I already knew my location, the model, her outfit, the props, and what will be approximately the plot of the photo shoot. I didn't know what would be the angles, poses, and composition in front of the camera. This is all improvisation during the photo shoot, and of course it is also important, but anyway, the biggest part of the work is done at the preparation stage. With this example, let's discuss how I work with the model. My work with the model is tightly bound to selection of a character. I don't put a model to some weird pose. I don't bend their arms and legs as I wish. I never say to her, do something beautiful, take some nice pose, or show me this emotion. Never. It works bad. It distracts the model, they feel lost, and they don't understand what to do. As a consequence, you immediately lose contact between each other. Don't do it, and don't put the model in some unnatural pose. You are not in her place. Maybe you have never even tried to make such poses. Most probably you can't even imagine what will be a more comfortable position for her. When a model is told how to stand, she often will not look natural and it will not work. But when you present to a model a thought-out style and context, you create a character for her. Each model is a bit of an actress inside and she wants to play this role. She is eager to connect with a character. That's why I tried to create a full image for my model, a character which has some occupation, temper, and I try to explain my idea to the model before the photo shoot so that she understands who she is. It is very exciting for a model to play a role to connect with her character. When we came to do this photo shoot, I said to the model, "You understand who you are? You are the gadget girl who dismantles cars. Just get inside, try to sort something out, switch things on and off, play around, laugh, and do whatever you like there. I will not stop you. Try to break down or dismantle something, pull out some part or insert it." So, the model is not limited or restricted. She likes the idea and she enjoys what she's doing. It is also important that I am not thinking during the photo shoot how I should position my model, how to direct her. I'm just watching her from the side. I'm thinking about what angle I should take, what foreground and background to select, how to build up the entire composition beautifully, so at least I don't have to think how to position my model. I'm just watching her naturally act in front of the camera, and that's my recommendation regarding work with the model. As for camera settings, let's go through this subject really quickly. I often say to the beginner photographers that if you have to focus a lot of your attention on the camera settings during the photo shoot, if you have to manipulate the settings all the time and think how to adjust shutter, ISO, and aperture, and then I would recommend you to set your camera to at least semi-automatic mode or even better, fully automatic. The last thing you want to think during the photo session is your camera settings. You should be thinking about the plot, about the composition, about the angle of view, how to build up your image, about what's going on at your location. Camera settings are not so important, especially if you photograph in RAW. They are secondary. As you get more experienced, you will understand very quickly how to adjust your settings manually. Then you can photograph in manual mode, no issue. I don't get distracted by adjusting setting during a photo shoot, I'm rather used to it. Nevertheless, I quite often use semi-automatic mode. I almost often photograph in aperture priority, and I'm quite comfortable with it. I set the aperture and then the automatic mode does its job. If you are covering the news and the conditions are highly variable, the light changes all the time. Maybe it is better to select manual code and think what settings to apply in order to avoid excessive adjustments later. So in this situation, manual mode may be more appropriate. But if it is staged photography, you create the environment you need. You have the light set up, and you photograph only this scene, don't bother about the setting. Either preset your camera manually before the photo shoot and forget about it, or use the semi-automatic mode and it will perfectly cope with its task as the conditions of the photo shoot will not be changing, so the result will be more or less smooth. But I do pay attention to some of the camera settings. I always set the temperature and I set the white balance. I do it manually, setting the temperature in kelvins. The temperature can be set in my camera just by selecting the required figure. How do I adjust the temperature? When I arrive at a location and see the environment, I just turn on the live view mode and look through the screen at the scene, and I identify visually whether I have the temperature of the color balance set too warm or a bit cold. Maybe it is too green or too magenta. I seldom adjust my settings, but if I see that the temperature is excessive in some way, I adjust it a little bit manually by eye. I look at the screen image and adjust it to be optimally close to reality. I want the colors of the original images to be highly realistic. If I have a task to make these images warmer or colder, better I do it later at post-production. But the original should be as close to reality as possible to reproduce natural colors. My average temperature setting is 4,500 or 5,000 Kelvin. At this optimal value, you can photograph almost any composition. There will be exceptions when the lighting is too cold or there are many incandescent lamps providing very warm light. So just in case, I always check the live view screen and adjust if required. Then afterwards, I don't pay attention to the settings. I take my photos and I can again come back to the color balance only if the photo shoot conditions significantly change. There's another very important parameter in the settings, which I started to pay special attention to over time. It is focusing by the center dot of the autofocus. You know, my eyesight is rather poor, so it is very difficult for me to manually set the autofocus and the depth of field. In this matter, I have to rely on the automatic controls of my camera. So the camera sets the focus automatically, but automatic controls tend to make frequent mistakes. That is why I take a lot of repeat shots, refocusing during the scene to hit the shot precisely. When all the autofocusing dots are switched on in your camera, I am not speaking now about some top-notch camera like Sony A7R featuring continuous focus, face and eye detection. It has got very good brain and it works really well. I take my photos, as I've mentioned already, with Canon 6D, a regular DSLR camera. It is a very old, one of the very first models of mid-size full-frame cameras. Focusing mode is not working so well in this camera, and when all the focusing points are switched on, I don't really understand where exactly the camera is focused. I assume that I targeted the focus onto the model's eyes, but the focus automatically sets on a different object. So let's take this photo as an example. I wanted to focus on the model's eye, but the autofocus could have targeted on this contrast border, or it would automatically focus here or here. And my camera would focus on these areas because the camera autofocus works by contrast detection. It sees that there's a border of some object here, so most probably it is required to focus here. I wouldn't even notice it during the photo shoot, but it would come up later that the autofocus worked incorrectly. That's why I turn off all autofocusing points in my camera and keep only one point switched on. It is the middle one. The middle point is the most precise in all cameras. It is bigger than the other points and most important for me. I always know where my camera focuses, or at least at which point it is trying to focus. And the process of the photo shoot changes a little bit in order to photograph in such a way. You first need to target the middle point of your camera to the required area where you need autofocus, most often the eyes. So we target the middle point to the model's eye, press the shutter halfway, the camera focuses, and then we move our camera to the right, framing so that the composition looks nice and proper. It is not obligatory that the focus is in the center of the image. We can move it and it will be at the third, and we depress the shutter fully to take the photo when we see the composition looks correct. You can get used to this technique very quickly. There is no issue at all, and it helps to significantly decrease the number of defective photos with the wrong focus. Before I scrapped so many photos because my camera focused incorrectly, and after I applied this mechanism, the number of defective photos decreased. So this is my life hack to you. This is the result of this photo shoot. What about the light here? There are no artificial sources of light. There is only rainy weather, and the body of the car was sealed with such matte plastic film. This matte film diffused the natural light even more, and it became milder. The film worked as a studio softbox. That's it. No other sources of light. Just rainy, dull weather, and this film. This photo was taken at the same location, just in a big garage or storage shed. The model is sitting with her back to this shed, and the natural dull light comes through the big gates which are in front of her. Same composition, but at a different angle. Here's before and after. No merging, no manual retouching, no brushes or other tools involved. I only adjusted the colors in Lightroom. Only cropping to 16 by 9 and adjustment of color, which takes around 5 minutes. We will discuss processing in the second part, but I want you to understand that it is preparation which made this photo as it is, not processing. Processing means almost nothing here. Preparation to the photo shoot made this session a success. Here are some examples of before and after. As you can see, the colors are slightly adjusted. There were green and yellow tones, which were unnecessary in this image, so I corrected it. The photo looks less saturated. It is almost black and white. I reduced the number of colors. I think such a color scheme is close to a fantasy genre, maybe like the Alien movie. Some science fiction about machinery, about space. Something like that. I have such associations with this photo shoot. Same here. Post-processing in the Alien style. That's how I see it. You can see some more examples of before and after. I adjusted only the color of these images. There's no Photoshop at all. If you look closer, you will even see all the pimples of the model's face. I could have deleted them, but why to do it? Some pimples or even splashes on skin look very appropriate for the character. These images look a bit weird. we were searching for some interesting light at this location. The light is also natural here. The window is covered with a red film and the daylight passes through it. That's it. I didn't have any additional sources of light at this photo shoot. No flash, no lamps, nothing. Well, let's see another photo shoot. It is also rather interesting. Maybe you get to know something new from it. I think that such illustrative analysis are most informative. When we review my thoughts, the stages I went through step by step preparing for a photo shoot, putting all the elements together, maybe it will be the biggest part of the lesson, and in my opinion, it is important. It is important to see by specific examples how it was done, how it was photographed. This photo shoot is quite interesting and rather unusual. How was the idea born? It didn't strike me in an instant either. I just had at the back of my mind an image of a frozen person. We see such images in movies, cartoons, or some fairy tales. For example, let's say frozen metal liquid Terminator and many others. Just some frozen character. Often before the new year, the shops are full with New Year goods and I come across sprays with artificial snow. I always looked at them and thought it would be interesting to come up with some idea and use these sprays. Another new year came and I thought either I buy these sprays now and create a photo shoot or it'll be shifted again for a year or I never make it happen. So, I bought these sprays and I bought quite a lot just to experiment. First of all, I do all the experiments by myself. I tried to cover with this snow some materials. I sprayed it on glass, wood, clothes. Then I sprayed it on my skin. I checked whether it is aggressive or irritates the eyes. What happens if I inhale it? Is it easy to wash off hair, skin, and all the rest of the surfaces and materials? And after all those experiments, I understand that yes, it is possible to make this happen. No issues about it. I don't recommend any certain manufacturer of this snow. I'm sure that different brands may have different chemical contents. Some sprays may be non-hazardous. Some may cause serious harm, especially if you try to cover eyes with the snow. So, you should always check the chemical contents, read the warnings on the spray, and always try to carefully test a small amount of it on yourself. And if everything is okay, you can spray the model with it. I bought the cheapest, simplest sprays I saw in the shop. They were suitable, but the amount of snow in the spray was so little that I took many. I used 8 cans, and it wasn't enough. I should have bought 2 times more, but I didn't think the volume was so low. So, how was the photo shoot developed further? After experimenting on myself, just with the snow, I didn't know what and how I would photograph. I understood it is possible to realize it, that I can cover skin and face, and I also got to know that this snow looks very nice on the hair, on some textures. If the surface is flat, it is not even clear that it is snow. But when you cover a hair with it, the snow accentuates hair, and it appears as if you're really covered with snow and it looks good. Then I thought about requirements from my model. I would like my model to have short hair. I wanted the hair to be up a bit. It could be a short haircut so that the hair ends would be covered with snow and emphasized. The model should be a brunette so that the snow is very visible on her hair. As usual, I searched for a model on social networks and I found her, if I am not mistaken, in the works of another photographer in my home city. I offered this photo shoot and described again in detail how it would be done. I shared the pictures with the model, showing that I had already tried it on myself, that this snow easily washed out, that it was not hazardous for eyes, same as I did before the photo shoot with the wax. I guaranteed fully that the process will do her no harm. I found the model, then what happened next? Actually, it wasn't the location because I had been thinking really long about a location for this photo shoot. Initially, I tried to find some attics, some country houses. I wanted to photograph it in some room, and I wanted to cover the interior of the room with the snow as well. It would be a frozen room, as if winter suddenly overcame our character and everything around became frozen. But I didn't like the options I had, and during my search for props, I was thinking that if there will only be a frozen person in front of the camera, and there's no motion at all, there can be a feeling that it is just a frozen dead body. As if I took photos of a dead body, and there's no beauty in that. If there's nothing happening, it's just gonna look like I took a photo of a dead body. It's not too pretty looking. It could be planned, but my idea was different. That's why I decided that my character should be doing something. But I didn't think that there must be some action or motion in my image, because I don't think that a frozen person will be so eager to move, run, or be active in any way. I decided I needed a prop so that my model interacts with it somehow. That's how I came up with an idea. That she'll be holding a glass shell with some living object inside. As if the whole world got frozen and my character gives her remaining drops of warmth to something which is still alive. So, I selected a plant as the object which was alive. I needed to find a glass shell to put my plant in. It would be some kind of a safe box which maintains warmth and life. I started searching for some glass bowls for flowers, vases, jars in the internet, online stores, and I finally found in an online secondhand market this glass dome. It is an old casing from a Soviet streetlight. It is reinforced. It has thick glass and a thick, strong metal rim. It looks very loft style, interesting and unusual. So, it is an old, retro, even retro-futuristic item. It costs 500 rubles. I ordered it and it was delivered to me directly. Perfect. No issue, and again, I got my props in an online secondhand market. This glass dome stimulated further development of my idea, as simple as that. I thought that if my model will be holding in her hands this mini greenhouse, mini globe which maintains warmth, it would be interesting if the model would be standing in a greenhouse in some glass dome as well. This way I would create a repetitive idea, the model standing in a glass dome and holding a dome with a life inside. I liked this idea. I thought that glass also looks cold, so it will make a perfect background, and it will also hide deficiencies of the location, which could distract my composition. Plus, it is possible to cover glass with the snow as well, and it will look interesting and good enough. I started to search for old greenhouses in the gardens of different country houses. I found an ad about a summer house for rent in the same online market. I made a simple search request which said, "Summer house with a greenhouse for sale." This plot was for sale, and I saw this picture of a greenhouse. First, it wasn't so clear to me whether it is big enough or not. Will it be possible to photograph there, or was it falling apart already? I contacted the owners. Again, I said that I am an artistic photographer. I am not getting money for this photo shoot, and could I take photos in their garden? They replied to me that I am welcome to come and photograph there. This plot is for sale. There's nobody there, so no issue. I could come anytime and take photos. I went to this location to see how everything looked in reality there, and I liked it. The clothes for the model were selected on the same basis as the model herself. The clothes should be dark, so the snow is clearly visible on it, and the material of the clothes should be textured again to accentuate the snow. The model found among her personal clothes an old trench coat. It is woolen, so has a textured surface. In addition, it has a retro look as well, so it suited perfectly. I include here some of the images which inspired me. I was looking through them when I was creating my plot. There's no picture which is an analog of my composition, but this idea of frozen people is not something unique. We come across it many times in movies. So, my photo shoot was developing like this. These are my first impressions. When I arrived at the location, the greenhouse looked like this. Yes, it is falling apart. Yes, it looks ugly in real life. But that's what I needed. There's some pieces of cloth hanging, some ropes. Probably they were used to tie up plants, which used to grow here. The photo shoot took place during the New Year. It was winter, so there was no greenery. That's how my dome looked. How did I make it? So it was delivered to me. I made a polystyrene base and put a bit of soil on top. I plugged the dome with this base and my prop was ready. In my final images, you almost can't see this plant inside the bulb. If you look really attentively, you might see it. There's only a tiny hint of something living inside. It turned out that this way, and I don't think it is a bad result. I think this hint is actually already what was necessary. I don't have to show what kind of plant is inside. It is not the point. A short backstage video, that's how we were covering the glass with the snow. As I mentioned, if I had double amount of these sprays, I would cover the place completely with snow, but I didn't have enough to cover the model fully. That's how the process looks. Even in real life, it looks not too bad. But that was my target. This composition must look good in reality. There's almost no processing here. I slightly adjusted color here. That's all. I removed unnecessary colors. This is the picture made with a mobile phone, and that's before and after. I adjusted the colors and reduced the colors to almost monochrome. There's almost no distinct color here. There are some tones of green. Maybe it is a bit turquoise, as we have a green plant in the image, and all the rest is bluish and greenish. That's some middle color. That's it. I just deleted unnecessary colors. I didn't even open Photoshop. I worked only with the general color of the image. Again, before and after. You can see the plant better in this photo. There is only natural light here. It is dull, natural winter light. It went through the glass panes and ceiling of the greenhouse, and it provided such mild lighting, very similar to the car wreck photo shoot. Just for this image, we illuminated the dome at the back with the telephone torch light to show what's inside. So, there was a person standing behind the model and illuminating the dome with the phone torch light to make the silhouette of the plant more visible. That's the only image where we used the telephone torch light. All the rest were taken under natural light conditions. That's how it looks. You can see some parts of the coat not covered with snow. I didn't want to correct it in Photoshop. I kept them. I think it made my photos look more realistic. No issue that there are some deficiencies in the coverage. The snow just tumbled down, and that's all. So, these were some of my photo shoots. I hope it was interesting for you to see these specific examples and in some way, as an observer, to take part in them. Maybe there are not enough of the backstage videos as you wished, but I think now you can imagine the process rather well. I don't think I have to broadcast my photo shoot process live and connect you to be present at the location. As I already mentioned, there is nothing miraculous going on during the photo shoot. You will not see anything special. It is just me walking around the model trying to find a favorable angle and interesting composition. I almost don't adjust my camera settings. I just take photos. I do a lot of repeat shots and I select among them the final originals. That's it. So I think you participated in several of my photo shoot in this distant format. Conclusions. As a summary to what has been said already, I would like to tell you that nowadays, in the world of the internet and high technologies, everybody, every day, sees hundreds of thousands of new photos of different genres and different styles. Everybody has a camera in the mobile phone taking pictures of everything around. You should either stand out somehow in this ocean of average photos or nobody will be interested in yours. There's no option. It is clear. Yes, you can save some energy and time and deliver an average result, but in this case, nobody will notice or need your photos. They will just immediately be lost within the thousands of identical average photos. Your photos should stand out. You should do your best and work out all the preparation stages, as your success first and foremost depends on preparation. Of course, photographing and post-processing are important as well, and we take that into account too. But preparation makes you stand out against the background of other photographers. I came to a conclusion at some point that if we analyze photographic art, we can divide the knowledge of a photographer into two categories. The first category consists of pure technical knowledge. It is information about your camera, in what way you photograph, what settings you use, what post-processing tools to apply, how to install the light, which color schemes to choose, and a lot of other things, which you can find in the internet free of charge. You can watch some educational videos at YouTube. You just need to learn, to understand and apply this knowledge. This information is not secret. It is technical, available for anyone, and easy to access. But there is a second category of the photographer's knowledge. It is your taste, your sense of beauty, your experience, the image which you targeted in your mind. You have a target and you keep it in mind during all the stages of preparation, photo shoot, and post-processing. It is impossible to teach to have a taste, but this quality can be trained just like we train our body. We should constantly research, look, and analyze what we see. It trains our sense of beauty. You can't be a genius photographer at the very beginning and see all beauty around. It comes with experience. But one step at a time. It doesn't come right away. You can't be a genius photographer at the very beginning and see all the beauty around. It comes with experience, but one step at a time. It doesn't come in one go. My recommendation is to look through many different and various photos of good or bad authors, analyze their works, make conclusions, and apply that somehow to your own art. Watch movies, listen to music, read books, and any art will in some way influence your photography. The arts are interrelated and they're created on basis of very similar principles. I wanted to give you links and recommend to follow some photographers, but then I thought, maybe I'll change my mind about them. My preferences change or the list will be too long. So, here's my Instagram account. You can check my subscriptions, the photographers I follow. There are not so many, but just several hundreds. Some of them are not so interesting, but these are the photographers I follow at the moment. There are some interesting models I would invite to my photo shoots. Maybe they will be useful for you as well. So, you can find the most up-to-date links and information in my Instagram account. Follow my page, follow the pages of the photographers I'm subscribed to, look at their art, develop their own taste, develop your own sense of beauty. Photograph, be creative, don't think about commercial photography. And another important note, if you really purchased this course, if it is interesting for you, and you have any questions after you listened to the course, do not hesitate to contact me in any social network. It can be Instagram. Ask your questions. I will always answer all the questions and to everyone who asks. Maybe I will not reply immediately, but I will devote time for the question-answer session and I will answer all your questions. It was great to meet you. Good luck, and see you again.